Okay, guys, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee. And today, let me get in here. Hold on. What's going on? All right, got it fixed. Okay, so today is the 14th of August. It's about 8:13, 8:14 in the morning. It's 81 degrees already, and we're going to hit 92, which isn't that bad. Really isn't. Last night I was freezing because we had the AC on as per normal, and I had the fan going, and man, I had to put a blanket on. I couldn't sleep. It's too cold. Because I had everything set up for 98, 100 degrees, and it wasn't that hot. So, anyway, that's our weather here in the not so holy land. Um, what we're going to do today is fly through the news. There's some significant news, but it's pretty quick and easy to cover. And then we're going to go through Isaiah chapter 34, which is a very important end times prophecy. It deals with the year of recompenses and the day of vengeance. And I want you to know that I went and I got it translated from the Codex Leningrad, which is the oldest Hebrew Masoretic, the oldest Hebrew Old Testament that we have. Goes back to around 900 A.D., which is old, right? And then, just for some checks and balances, I did translate it from Codex Vaticanus, which goes back to around 300 A.D., and what they did is collect the scraps and the fragments of the original Greek Septuagint that was translated from the Hebrew about 250 years before Yeshua came to Israel on earth. So it is really old. And this was done around 300 AD, and there was no church, Christian church or any Catholic Christian didn't exist at that time. The word Vaticanus is just a word that the Catholics stole later on. It has nothing to do with the Vaticanus. These translations are done without using any church published translation sources, which I trust as far as I could throw the Eiffel Tower, and no church doctrines or anything put in there. And there's a very substantial error. And I will not only point out the error, I will show you in great depth from the Greek and the Hebrew why that error, well, how that error came to pass and why it's an error, okay? And it's significant. It floored me. I was going to do Isaiah 34 and, was going to treat this thing because it's an unusual statement in there, and I was getting ready to do that, and then I said, something's not right. I better translate this instead of using the King James. So I got it translated. I use AI to work on the translations with me, and I had a real surprise, and you'll have a real surprise. And it's really significant, and I'm gonna get my water bottle, which I forgot. I'll be right back. so easy for me to feel sorry for myself living here. It's so hard that I have to fight it all the time. So I'm supposed to be here. And I gotta keep forcing myself to remember to just put up with it. And that's that. Okay. So we're gonna go through that. Mommy dog slipped back. I don't know why. She's not doing so great. Not that bad, not that great. Please pray for the mommy dog for healing. I don't know what's wrong. She was fine. She's not so fine. Please pray for mommy dog for healing and good health. Healing from whatever's bothering her. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter. God can heal it. Thank you. Okay. So I'm going to go into the live stream and make sure we got a good live stream running, and it looks like we do. The amount of views go down because there's not much going on in the war, and people just like to come listen to me for intel on the war. They could care less about the Bible. I love hearing about people past or how things are going. Okay. I'm okay. My wife's doing better. Thanks for the prayers. I had a feeling when I stopped the prayers, I shouldn't have stopped the prayers with you guys. Maybe the fire's for the dog now. No, nothing like that. Oh joy, I hit the wrong thing. YouTube gets so obnoxious with their changes. They do things, I think, just on purpose, irritate the people, because Satan wants that, and they just do stupid things. Okay, I'm gonna put a post up on the quick side here, and then we'll get going. This won't take long, a few seconds. got that pinned, I think. Thank you for all the greetings. I appreciate that. Okay, I'm good with the live stream, and now I'm gonna do some praise, which is something rarely done on social media, but we do it. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, I'm going to do a quick prayer. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for a good live stream today, for a good anointing that helps the people, helps me, and we understand what's really being said in the scriptures and what the deceptions of the nations are and how you're fulfilling prophecy in these latter days. And I submit this prayer to you, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem, Yeshua, HaMashiach. We have a few prayer requests today, which are important. What kind of believers would we be if we didn't pay attention to the other people's prayer requests, right? All right, I'm getting a little malfunction here. Let's fix that. There we go. All right. First prayer request for RG, Romeo Golf. The prayer request is for healing, pain in the back and body. So for RG, Romeo Golf, RG, pray for healing, pain in the back and body. I already prayed, so if you're true believers, you can pray for that. Next one is for NF, Normandy Foxtrot. NF, Normandy Foxtrot. NF. Pray, okay. The prayer is for NF and son to get help from God with their business. So NF and son are the prayer request is for God to help them with their business. I've already prayed, so you guys can pray, and or you could agree with me in the prayer on these because I've already prayed. It's up to you. The next one is for PC, Papa Charlie PC, Papa Charlie PC, healing for arthritis in the spine and associated pain. So PC, the prayer request is healing for arthritis in the spine with the pain associated with it, for healing and relief from the pain. Okay? I've already prayed. You can agree with my prayer, or you could pray your own prayer if you're a believer. Okay? That's it for the prayer requests. Okay, Iran is making noises that they intend to go on full offensive, which is, when you listen to what they talk about, they're going to destroy the entire world. But I think what they're probably going to do is try to attack the United States on its own soil. Now, I'm guessing the 48 states, but it could be Alaska, Hawaii, but I'm thinking the 48. Now, they could do a lot of things, so we could just run the gamut and, throw 50 ideas out there. We don't know what they're doing. Cyber attacks, they can continue that. They could do drone attacks. They could launch drones from inside the United States or from their ships that are looking like merchant marine vessels, but they're more warships. And from those ships, they could also, from container ships, launch missiles from offshore. Uh, they could be 50, 100, 150 miles from America, and the missiles could still reach. Or they'd probably do it a lot closer, probably 30 miles or something. And drones and missiles they can launch. They can put saboteurs inside America to blow stuff up. They could do targeted assassinations. We don't know what they're going to do. They'll tell you they'll do the whole kitchen sink. What they're also likely to do is destroy the infrastructure in the surrounding nations that sell oil. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Oman, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. They will probably go after their grid, which is easy. They'll go after their water desalinators, and then the damage would likely take a year or two to repair, and there wouldn't be any oil. They'll hit the oil wells, then they'll hit the refineries. They know what to hit. They are an oil producing country. They know exactly what to hit, and they're getting help from China and Russia on precise locations for their missiles. So this is something that I think they will do. Trump is playing a game of chicken with them. Who's going to blink first? Who's going to throw the towel in first? Is Iran going to say, all right, we had enough. We're broken financially. Let's make a deal. Well, look, the let's make a deal would be at least days, weeks, months, the way they are. So I don't think that's going to happen. They're not going to go sit down with Trump at a position of weakness and surrender, basically. They don't want to. They don't want to give up anything. They want their nuclear program for it. I could care less about that one. They want their ballistic missile program. They don't want anyone telling them they can't go around killing tens of thousands of their own people when they want to. They want all the sanction money being held now, a good $100 billion, I guess, to come back to them quickly. They want all the sanctions taken off, and they want war reparations for the damages inflicted on them, which they originally said they wanted $300 billion. I think it would be spread over a number of years, perhaps 10 years or 5 years. And now they're probably going to want $500 billion. But Trump is saying that they need to pay reparations for what they've done to the damages in other countries, naming Syria, Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, and I think Iraq. Now, this is why Trump could care less about Israel. He didn't mention reparations to Israel where they caused damage here. See, Israel doesn't count. A bunch of dirty Jews, stinking Jews. We don't want them, That's how they treat us. That's how the world treats us, okay? So that's Trump in action. I just want to point that out to you. Now, when Trump does things that are good, I point that out too. But so far, we've seen Trump fail with Hamas in Gaza. The women soldiers, mostly that are on the border of Gaza, surveillancing them. As of yesterday, was saying they're seeing active action in Gaza with these Hamas terrorists that's looking similar to what happened on the, October 7th attack in 2023. And that's because Trump failed to disarm them. He made all kinds of promises and threats to disarm them, and they're still not disarmed. 9 months later? He's comical. He doesn't mean anything what he says. He doesn't follow through. He just says stuff and sounds good, I'll say it, and then he forgets about it, or he doesn't do it. Okay? the situation with Lebanese army disarming Hezbollah. Let's just keep it in a few sentences. If it was ever going to happen, Lebanon would have done it like a year ago. It's easy. If you're going to do it, they're not going to do it. A massive amount of their army is Shiite Muslims. They're not going to turn against Hezbollah. They're afraid of Hezbollah. And they just keep talking about doing it and get Israel out of our country. They don't care what Hezbollah does to Israel. They could care less. Okay? Trump failed in Lebanon. He failed in Gaza. He put a moron in Syria that stabbed him in the back and is working with Russia. And this Giuliani, the Al Qaeda terrorist with a new paint job, which is a suit, wears suits now, went ahead and made a deal with Russia that they can come back and reoccupy their two bases, the air base and the Navy base, and that gives Russia back a Navy base on the Mediterranean to fight against NATO, which America's part of NATO. So Giuliani went to an enemy of Trump. Why did he do that? Because he sees Trump as weak. Why is Iran going on the offensive? Because Iran sees Trump as weak. Okay? And they know that he's dead bent on taking this war and reducing it to a level that he can understand. He doesn't understand war. He understands economics. He understands money. That's his life, is money. Okay? If someone jumped out of the bushes when Trump was walking by and they said, your money or your life, I believe Trump would say, please give me 10 minutes to think about it. Okay? That's Trump. Okay? And Trump has a bad, really bad conflict of interest with the United States of America because he has 7 big real estate projects that are going to make him and his family a lot of money in these Arab states. Okay? 7 of them, 2 of them are in progress. The others are just more or less empty holes in the ground that are going to be in progress soon. But I doubt they'll ever get built. So you got a president running around building real estate projects in these countries with his name, the Trump name. And he's worried about those projects not coming to pass. That's why he's trying to halt the war. One of the reasons. Because Iran's going to decimate these countries. Knock out their water, desalination, knock out their grid, knock out their refineries, their airports, their pipelines. Iran said they're going to get all the pipelines. They said thousands and thousands of miles of pipelines. Could they send saboteurs around the world to blow pipelines up? Sure. Many of the pipelines are above ground. Many. It's easy to work on them. All you got to do is put some satchel charges down with a timed detonator, take off, and then let it blow. You could set it to go off in 24 hours or 15 minutes, whatever you want. Iran also threatened to cut the internet cables. That would mean the Houthis will cut the cables in the Red Sea, and they'll cut the cables in the Persian Gulf. I would guess you'd knock out around 35-40% of the world's internet. You in America and Western Europe would only be affected if you were trying to communicate with countries in parts of Africa, parts of the Middle East, and parts of Europe. South America wouldn't notice it except trying to contact these other countries, and the same for Australia and New Zealand. But doing money transfers to pay for oil coming from the Middle East would be awfully difficult because you wouldn't be able to use the SWIFT system, which works on internet cable, unless you wired the money through banks like Switzerland, which would probably be what would happen. So, this is the direction that Iran wants to go in because Trump can maintain his blockade, which is stopping any ship from going into Iran or out of Iran. So Iran can't sell any oil or natural gas. And it got to be hurting them economically. However, they bought a lot of trucks and they're sending oil out on trucks, which helps. And they also send oil out on their train system. So they're getting some oil sold. So Trump's not really got a full chokehold on them. He's got a heavy duty one, but it's not 100%. But they're uncomfortable. And they seem to have come to the conclusion that if they just wait long enough, Trump's not going to pull the ships away. He's going to keep his blockade going and break their back. So they came to the conclusion that they can't just wait it out because they're going to lose. So they said they're changing their whole approach. They're not going to go tit for tat with Trump. Trump attacks them, they attack back. No. They're going to start attacking all around the world to get the world to put a lot of pressure on Trump to get Trump to knock it off. Okay? I don't think Trump's going to be too quick to knock it off. The debacle on the Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier seems to be changing the story to one guy who was probably mentally ill or something jumped off the deck of the ship. He lived and he was recovered, and that was it. Now, people on the ship are saying they're not getting mail through. Well, my understanding is any Navy ship in a combat area is going to have trouble getting mail in and out. You know, they could run the mail over there on a helicopter, but they have to send the mail on a plane to some nearby country where a helicopter can go, but they just don't seem to have a nearby country. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but they're saying the toilets aren't working. That's probably true. They probably get some of them working. I imagine after a certain period of time on the ship, you get stir crazy. And I think they've been over deployed and they want to get out. The guy that jumped ship, what they're more than likely going to do with him is put him in a hospital, give him psychiatric drugs against his will, or with his will, and if he recovers, they might keep him, just not put him on sea duty, or they might just give him a nice discharge based on medical and give him some sort of pension, and that's that. I don't know. There's all kinds of stories about the others. I don't think we really know what happened, and I wouldn't pay a lot of attention to it. Other people are saying that they're being served undercooked chicken, stuff like that. Well, they're in a combat zone and they're getting hot meals. They should think about what happens when there's a ground war and the guys are eating a meal out of a can or a bag. Now, they have meals now where they self-heat. They got a chemical in the box or the container. They got some that have the whole meal in a bag and the whole bag will heat everything up. The idea is to get the thing heated up so they don't have to burn a little fire, which can be seen at night. So they're trying to find an audience. And they got one. And the Navy wants to shut it down. So they're sending the George Washington aircraft carrier, which is another Nimitz, out there to relieve the ship. Now, somebody said that that's a ploy and it's just a way for them to get 3 ships in the area at the same time. Maybe, but I doubt it. They probably don't consider the Abraham Lincoln with their crew that battle worthy anymore. It's been deployed too long. They're probably going to send them back, and they'll get leave. I think as soon as they get back, they'll probably get a month or 6 weeks leave, and the ship will go in for repairs, and then they'll bounce back. When wars break out, people get stuck on these ships for a lot longer than that. A lot of times, the ship would go in for repairs, like World War II. And yeah, the guys can go on leave, but it depends where the repairs were. It might be some island in the Pacific, and yeah, they can go swimming and eat coconuts and papaya, that's for sure, but there was nothing to do there. But they were on dry ground. And if the repairs took 10 days, they were back on the boat in 10 days. Off they went. So the situation about the mail and the toilets and the, not properly cooked chicken, anything going on with the chicken not cooked properly, I'm sure got fixed already. The captain could fix that. He calls the cooks in and says, what the heck's going on? And cooks will say, we don't know, we're not getting any complaints about that. Or they say we did and we fixed it, Be one of two things, that's all. It's a question of keeping the chicken in another 10 or 15 minutes, that's, it's nothing. There was another aircraft carrier, a destroyer. I was in the Middle East not that long ago. They had the broken toilets too. They took it into a port somewhere around Greece, somewhere around there. No, not Cyprus. I think around Greece, and they got it fixed and then came back with it or something. It's not that big a deal. There's probably a lot of stress because they're on alert all the time. They're probably on, next to the highest alert most of the time. These guys are thinking, why us? Why us? Why are we stuck here? So they're rotating them. Then the pilots will get a break. The planes will get serviced. If they had 90 serviceable planes, by now maybe they're down to 75, we don't know. I don't know. Okay, that is not a very significant event that got out of hand, I think. Okay, so when is Iran going to start going off the reservation and attacking like crazy? Any day now. Vance puts cheap energy ahead of Iran as a nuclear threat. The U.S. Vice President says keeping oil and gas prices low is Washington's top goal. Yeah, they don't want collapsing economies around the world. Followed by preventing an Iranian bomb. I could care less about that one. As the Trump administration intensifies economic pressure on Tehran. Wall of steel. Hegseth, that's the defense guy, says, he's Secretary of Defense, says, U.S. Secretary of War, I'm sorry, they changed it. U.S. can maintain Iran naval blockade indefinitely. Well, if Iran lets them, yes. This Defense Secretary Hegseth says warships can be rotated in and out of the region as Washington keeps up pressure on Tehran. More than 55 commercial vessels have been redirected since the blockade began, with 3 disabled and 2 boarded. Yes, this blockade is working on the part of America, and the problem is it's also working on the part of Iran. You got 2 highly effective blockades at the same time. Iran is stopping a tremendous amount of shipping from other countries, and Trump is doing a very good job. See, I'm giving him credit of stopping ships from going to and fro Iran carrying oil and natural gas.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Do you need anything for Shabbat?
Uh,
You got your breads?
yeah, I got some bread. I guess I'm okay.
Okay.
Now we hear, I think, from the Treasury Secretary, I think, but it's from somebody in America, the U.S. will be applying economic measures that have never been seen on Iran, according to Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. This will be in conjunction with the military blockade imposed by Washington. He doesn't say what he's going to do. The Washington aircraft carrier, by the way, has crossed into the Mediterranean from the Atlantic, I believe, yesterday. It could have been earlier, but the latest would have been yesterday. So it's not that far away. It might take a week, may not take a week. It may go quicker. I don't know. I think a week. When the George Washington aircraft carrier gets within theater range, maybe into the Mediterranean by the Suez Canal or something, they might start sending the Abraham Lincoln home, but I'm not so sure. The Iranians, to irritate Trump, say the U.S. miscalculated the situation regarding the Straits of Hormuz, despite Trump's claim of total control. This is Aragachi, Iran's foreign minister, said the U.S. has long miscalculated Iran's strength in the war. Now he says American forces are making an even bigger miscalculation on the Strait of Hormuz, which Trump said Wednesday is on total U.S. control. Trump's choice of words are rather inaccurate, but Trump can stop any ship from going to or from Iran right now. And he's proved it. But because Iran is stopping many other ships from going in and out of the Persian Gulf and attacking them with pretty good frequency, I don't think Trump's choice of words were really the appropriate ones. He was stretching it. The Board of Peace, that's Trump's thing in Gaza, confirms Kushner, that's the son-in-law of Trump, nepotism. You ever heard of nepotism? Well, Trump believes in nepotism when it comes to him. Confirms Kushner to visit Israel and Egypt next week to discuss the Gaza plan. Which isn't working. Trump failed in Syria, as evidenced by the guy in Syria making a deal with Russia to give them a base in the Mediterranean, again, to be used against NATO. He failed in Yemen. He was attacking Yemen and gave up, and now they're shutting the Red Sea. They'll probably cut internet cables and so forth. He's pretty much failed in Iran. He's failed with Iraq. He's failed with Saudi Arabia. He's failed all over the place, Where has he succeeded? Nowhere. At least 5 tornadoes touched down in Chicago area. The area, Chicago, the city and the area. Okay, so the suburbs, I suppose, also. This is all the way back to Tuesday. Today's Friday, 3 days ago. A destructive derecho, they're calling it. Now, the 2026 total for tornadoes in the Chicago area for this year, which is far from over, is 70, an all-time record for as long as they've been keeping records. So you see, this is a sign that Trump will never tell you, and the media is all Satan bot run, and they'll never tell you. Okay? You think that's normal? I don't. 5 tornadoes in a day. Yeah, that's typical. Yeah, normal. Yeah. That'd be normal if you get 1,800 tornadoes a year in Chicago. If that was the case, nobody would live in Chicago. They just shut it down. An ammunition plant in Italy that was used to make ammo given to Ukraine had an explosion. That could be just something, well, they just had an explosion, or it could be sabotage because it was a critical resource for Ukraine. It's a Russian may have done that. We don't know. This is amusing. The British commentator Piers Morgan called Netanyahu an idiot following Netanyahu's statement in an interview in which he referred to Britain as the Islamic Republic of Britain. Netanyahu knows how to light him up, huh? Oh yeah, they didn't like that. Let's see what we got here. According to an analysis, oh no, yeah, there was someone sent this in. According to an analysis by Grok, about 80% of the comments side with Netanyahu, his position in opposing Morgan. That was there was in social media the Morgan thing. Somebody wrote me and asked Grok about Pakistan saying that they care about Iran and they're worried about Iran, things of that. I don't remember the exact words, something like that. Well, I picked it up from media that was a common big media source, and they said that it had happened in the last day or two. Now they could have been lying, but I don't think they would do something like that. But I don't have all the information. That maybe they were lying. I don't know. 4 Israelis, including a mother and her children, were wounded this evening last night by a Palestinian mob during throwing stones at them near the Judean city of Hebron. Yeah. So you can see the kind of treatment we get from the Palestinians, and that's why the so-called settlers go off at them. If you want to talk about who started it, it was them in the late 80s with their Intifada stuff. It was quite a bit more peaceful before, like 88, 1988. But 1988 is a long time ago. A lot of you were probably not born then. Or you would have been in diapers or something. So this is what we get from them. So they're getting sick and tired of Netanyahu's policies of trying to appease the Muslims and be nice to them. You know, nice Muslims in Israel don't get bothered. Okay? There are a lot of Muslims in Israel that are very grateful to live here. And they don't want any trouble, and they don't want to make any trouble. They do exist in bulk. Okay. And they don't have trouble. Okay. People just, why are people going to bother them? What's the point of bothering them? Why? What's your motive? They're not doing anything. Okay, now I'm going to take you through, I'll take a quick look at the live stream, see if I got to deal with anything, but then we're going to go through Isaiah 34, the whole chapter, which isn't that big, and I'm going to show you that it doesn't say what King James is telling you it says, and I'll explain why that happened. I'll break it down for you. Yeah, there's a lot of fires, and there's a scripture, the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. It says, I will kindle fires in and about your cities. Now, remember, when the fires go in the cities, the gas lines are going to get affected, and there's going to be a lot of fires and a lot of explosions and a lot of things burning. But the believers will be out soon on the next great Exodus. But let us go to Isaiah 34. Let me fix my iPad. Okay, so I am translating from the Leningrad Codex from around 900 AD, which is a Masoretic text, which is in Hebrew. And the other one is the Codex Vaticanus, which has nothing to do with the Vatican Catholic Church. This is before they had a Catholic Church. It's from around 300 AD, and it's Greek. They take the remnants of the fragments of the original Septuagint, which was done in 250 AD. So by now it was 500 or 600 years old, you know, and they basically restored it. So we're getting it from an ancient Greek manuscript, which is a translation from the Hebrew to the Greek called the Septuagint, and this was done before Yeshua came to Israel, so they didn't have an axe to grind, okay? And then we're also using the oldest Hebrew manuscript we could find, which is the Leningrad, Codex Leningrad of about 900 AD, okay? So I'll predominantly start with the Codex Leningrad, the Hebrew thing, okay? But we're going to use both. And I use AI, and I have AI trained not to use any church translation material that's done by the church publishing houses or anything like that, to use secular translation tools and no church doctrines imputed into this at all. Okay, so it will be translated, and if the translation leads, it's called raw English. And if it leads into conflict with church doctrines, it's so what, who cares? We're doing raw English, and that's how you get the real meaning here, okay? Verse 1. Draw near nations, there would be goyim in Hebrew, I believe. To hear, it would be heathen nations. To hear, and peoples give attention, let the earth hear, and its fullness, the world, and all that springs from it. Springs from it is the people in it. Now, this is for the world to hear it. And the church is not spreading this to the world. But many of you will think I'm a piece of crap because I kick against the church that fails to do what it should do. And that's the lot. That's what the men of God suffer from consistently. The prophets, the apostles, Yeshua, you teach the truth and you get rejected. Not by everybody. Verse 2. For anger belongs to Jehovah against all the nations, and fury against all their host. He has devoted them to destruction. He has given them to the slaughter. I will read from the Greek now, Codex Vaticanus, which is basically, we're reading the old Septuagint in its originality as much as possible. Because the wrath of the Lord is upon all the nations, that means not on Israel, on the nations, and anger upon the number of them, to destroy them and deliver them to slaughter. Now, I am going to go to the King James and read you the King James to see how cuckoo gaga it is, how bad it is. It's bad. Uh, 1 verse 2. Okay, here you go. And you'll see how seriously in error this is. For the indignation of the Lord, that word means anger, indignation, is upon all nations, that's heathen, goyim, heathen nations, and his fury is upon all their armies. He hath utterly destroyed them. He hath delivered them to the slaughter. Now, I'm sitting here thinking about that. I never did this before. And I was thinking, well, he destroys all the armies. Well, in the days of Gog and Magog, yes, that happens. But not here. This is designed to make you think, that confuse you, and to make you think it's Gog and Magog when this isn't. As I'll later on show you how absolute clear it is. It's not. Okay? It's not. There's a big difference between army and the nations. So I was sitting there thinking, well, we know Jeremiah 30 verse 11, where God says he's going to destroy all the nations that he scattered the Jews into. And I believe it's basically all of the nations. There might be some nations he didn't scatter the Israelites into. Well, you probably count them on your fingers. There could be some, okay? And just like I said that, it's possible that there are none, okay? So the evidence from the text appears that there probably are none, okay? But maybe, I don't know. I don't think so. I think there are none. But we'll find out soon enough, okay? So I was trying to decide, well, the armies have to go first, because if the nations were getting destroyed before the armies, then there wouldn't be much of an army. And going through this, trying to put the pieces together. And then the Lord's leading me to go get the translation corrected, get a real translation, not the King James. You know, the King James, this is the problem with it. What they did is they relied on the other English translations, of which, when they did it in 1611, there was quite a few other English translations floating around, okay? And they also used the Latin from the Catholics. Okay? They didn't know how to translate Hebrew. Not. The big ones started with Wycliffe in the 1300s. And that is straight up Schofield Darby when you read it. It really is. It's all full of traps and misleading stuff and everything else, okay? It's not a good work. Okay? Then the next big one was Tyndale. Same thing. More Schofield Darby, bad translation. Not really leading people to the truth very much. It's not that bad. You can get saved and all that. But, you know, it's screwing around with prophecy. Okay? So they tell you how they translated from the Hebrew, but I mean, this was King James, a Satan bot, okay? And he was sitting there, you know, not trying to create a great work, you know, he's trying to cater to the church. All right. So this is a rather bad era, okay? Now we're in verse 3. For anger belongs to Jehovah against all the heathen nations, the Goyim, and fury against all their host. He has devoted them to destruction. He has given them to the slaughter. Okay, the Lord's leading me here. Let me get a quick translation on Jeremiah 30, verse 11. Okay, yeah, it'll not take long, believe me. It's one verse. That's the bird. He's in the house because of the heat. The bird's making noises. See, they don't teach Jeremiah 30, verse 11. They don't want you to know that. Okay, translation. Okay, it's a bit different. All right. I think, I don't know. Let's. I got it here though. Let's. Okay, this I believe is the Hebrew Codex on Jeremiah 30, verse 11. For I am with you, declares Jehovah, to save you, for I will make a complete destruction among all the nations where I scattered you there. But of you I will not make a complete destruction. I will discipline you with judgment and clearing. I will not clear you. I guess not get rid of you all. Now, let's read it in the Codex Vaticanus, which is basically from the Greek Septuagint. Because I am with you to save you. See, great is Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Because I am with you to save you. You see, this is Jacob's trouble. It's even in the same chapter, Jeremiah 30. It's around verse 6 or verse 8. And it's the only place in the Bible you read of Jacob's trouble. Because I am with you to save you, says the Lord, for I will make a full end among all the nations into which I scattered you. I scattered you there. But of you I will not make a full end, and I will discipline you unto judgment, and make guiltless. I will not make you guiltless. In other words, he's not letting them get away with everything they did. They're going to pay for their sins, and that happens. But he is for us. You see, but how does it work? It says, if you return to me, I'll return to you. You got to come to him first. So they're not coming to him. So what does he do? He scans the daylights out of them. And that's the siege. In Zechariah 12, then they come to him. It works, though. Come on, it works. Okay. Now we're going to do Jeremiah 46, verse 28, which is essentially more or less the same thing. And we'll start with the Leningrad Codex, which is the Hebrew Masoretic. Okay. From around 900 AD. You do not fear my servant Yaakov. He's saying, you do not fear. He's saying, don't fear my servant Yaakov, for I am with you. See, I operate that way. You see me. I sit out here when the missiles come, and I just talk about the missiles coming. I don't go run and hide in the shelters. And, it says, because no harm's going to come near my dwelling. It's in the scriptures. But it's saying, you do not fear my servant Yaakov. So he's addressing it to his servant Yaakov, which is us here in the land. Don't fear. Well, all the Israelites, really, and all the true believers, which are Israelites, spiritual Israel, which is way the heck more important than physical Israel, and then you get merged into physical Israel, just read Ezekiel 47, the last three verses. So, don't fear, he's saying, declares Jehovah. It's a declaration, you know. It, for I am with you. For I will make a complete destruction among all the nations where I drove you there. But of you I will not make a complete destruction. I will discipline you with judgment, and clearing I will not clear you. It is not going to clear them off the land. Okay. Now the Greek, the Vaticanus. Do not fear my servant Yaakov, says the Lord, for I am with you, for I will make a full end in every nation into which I pushed you out there. But of you I shall not make a full end, and I will discipline you unto judgment, and making guiltless, I will not make you guiltless. The words complete destruction. Kala is the Hebrew word. Literally means a complete finishing, total destruction, or complete end. Okay, now, the surrounding nations get that, but not necessarily Israel, of course, doesn't get that. The Greek word means full execution, total completion, or complete consumption. Clearing, the word there, I will not clear you. The Hebrew, nageh, it's a word meaning absolute. The root word means to clean out. See, the really way you understand your Hebrew is through the roots, the root words. Okay, so that's where I was getting confused because of the why just the armies and how do you sequence this and put it in order. It was stumping me. And then I realized why it was stumping me is it wasn't Bible. It was church. Okay. Now, you know, I teach you the truth and you like it. Many, I teach them the truth and they hate it. Okay, so now we're in verse 3. Their slain shall be cast out, and the stench of their corpses shall ascend, and the mountains shall melt from their blood. Those are the heathen nations. But they're not all going to die, obviously. See, these nations were built up by Satan, and he built them the way he likes them. You know, you don't live in a nice house on the land, on the ground. You live in a tower in a hole in the wall, that kind of thing. That's not how you're supposed to live, I don't think. All the host of the heavens shall rot. The Greek reads, and the heaven shall be rolled up like a scroll, and all the stars shall fall like leaves from the tree, the vine, and as leaven fall from a fig tree. And the Hebrew is, all the host of the heavens shall rot, and the heavens shall be rolled up like the scrolls, and all their host shall wither as a leaf falls from a vine, and as a falling fig tree from the fig. So we're supposed to think, your first thing is, this is going to be the stars falling from the sky and no longer giving their light, which happens at the end of Gog and Magog. So if it happens at the end of Gog and Magog, before Gog and Magog started, the stars were there giving their light. Since Gog and Magog is probably about 70 years after this would happen, this is not the same thing as Gog and Magog. It says they shall rot, and the heavens shall be rolled up like a scroll. I keep saying, when we get the appearing of Yeshua, we have a new heaven and a new earth. Okay. For my sword is drenched in the heavens. Behold, it shall descend upon Edom, that would be Yemen, as far as I know, and upon the people. If it's not Yemen, it's Jordan, I guess. But I think Jordan is Moab, and Ammon, I think it's Yemen. And upon the people I have devoted to destruction. So the sword also falls on. All right, let's go. It shall descend upon Edom, and upon the people I have devoted to destruction. That's Edom in this case. And upon the people I have devoted to destruction for judgment. Now I'm in verse 6. A sword belongs to. Now you could see Edom getting it if it's Yemen. They're going to cut the internet cables, or they're avidly threatening to. They're stopping shipping off and on. They're shooting at ships. They're attacking Saudi Arabia now, and they've attacked Israel. Very important, with hundreds of drones and missiles. We're in the year of recompense, and that's payback. So they're going to get their payback. My sword is drenched in the heavens. Behold, it shall descend upon Edom. So this is not a sword on the earth, it's coming from heaven, and the people I have devoted to destruction for judgment. Okay, it fits. A sword belongs to Jehovah. It is filled with blood. It is gorged with fat, with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For Jehovah has a sacrifice in Bozrah, that I believe is in Edom, and a great slaughter in the land of Edom. The Greek is, I could read the Greek. The sword of the Lord is filled with blood. It is thickened with fat from the fat of lambs, and from the fat of goats and rams, and for there is a sacrifice to the Lord in Bozor or Bozrah, and a great slaughter in Edom, Idumea, Edom again, Idumea, Edom. Okay, verse 7. Wild oxen shall descend with them. And in verse 7 in the Greek it says, and the mighty ones shall fall with them. And probably the mighty ones, not the oxen, I think, and the rams but it seems to be talking about animals, so maybe it is oxen, because then it says, and the rams and the bulls and the lands shall be drunk with blood and filled with their fat. And again, the Hebrew, wild oxen shall descend with them. In other words, go down to the pit, dead, the spirits or something. And young bulls with strong ones, their land shall be drenched with blood, and their soil gorged with fat. Their land shall be drenched with blood, and their soil gorged with fat. Now we're in verse 8. For it is a day of vengeance for Jehovah, a year of retribution for the dispute of Zion. There it is. That sets the stage in a way we really understand. Now let's read that verse 8 in the Codex Vaticanus, it's from the Greek, the original Septuagint. For it is a day of judgment of the Lord, and a year of repayment of judgment for Zion. Very clear. Except it's not a biblical year, it's a Shanat, it's a prophetic period of time. The Lord first told me that on August 10, 2023. He said, we're in recompense. The recompenses, maybe he said, recompense. Okay, so there you are. Day of vengeance and the year of recompenses. The Day of vengeance seems to be the pivot point when we flow out of the recompenses into redemption. But when we hit redemption, then it begins the so-called year or Shanat of redemption. So redemption is not exactly in the Day of vengeance, but I think it also is because of what happens to the nations on that day. If not, then it's you have recompenses, the Day of vengeance closes recompenses, and then we begin redemption. But I think you got the idea. The Day of vengeance is the word yom, and it means day. I think you're looking at a 24-hour calendar time period here. not a prophetic day. I do not think so. Okay. Um, 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord, so we could always say, oh, yeah, it's going to be 1,000 years of vengeance. I don't believe he's going to put his people through that at all, not by a long shot. And that would, it's just not going to happen, okay? That's not going to happen. Okay, 34, verse 9. Its streams shall be turned into pitch, and its soil into sulfur. Its land shall become uh, burning pitch. That would be Edom. In the Greek, its ravines shall be turned into pitch. So not Edom's not going to be inhabited again. Okay. Night and day it shall not be quenched. Forever its smoke shall ascend. From generation to generation it shall lie waste forever and ever. No one shall pass through it. They're not one of the surrounding nations of Israel. By what do I mean? They don't have a border with Israel, or they don't have close to a border with Israel. Iraq has close to a border with Israel, as does Turkey. But they have attacked us sufficiently. And that means, just like Iran doesn't have a border with us, but they've attacked us and caused trouble for us sufficiently. So. The pelican and the porcupine shall possess it. Well, I honestly think I like porcupines and pelicans, and I hope they enjoy Edom, and it's theirs. I mean, I agree with it. I'm fine with it. Are you? The owl and the raven shall dwell in it. I hope they enjoy it. I really do. Um, he shall stretch over it the measuring line of chaos and the plumb stones of emptiness. Well, I'd rather see these animals there enjoying themselves than the Houthis. Yeah, I'm really glad. I mean, I hope the animals really flourish over there. Verse 12. Its nobles. That's sort of an oxymoron, isn't it? But anyway, it's noble. I'm not making fun of your Bible, Lord. Forgive me, B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach. Its rulers is what it's coming from the Greek. I think that's better to say rulers. They definitely have rulers. Nobles, I don't know about that. Rulers, yeah, I go for that. You know, its rulers, they shall call no kingdom there, and all its leaders shall be nothing. Well, I'm not going to go sit shiva for them. Okay. The Latin reads us more, the Greek rather, sorry. Its great men shall be for destruction. That's fine. No problem. Verse 13. Thorns shall grow in its palaces, nettles and thistles in its fortresses. It shall become a home for jackals, a court for ostriches. Well, I hope the jackals and ostriches have a good time and raise a lot of children and they have a good time there. Verse 14. Desert creatures shall meet with howling beasts, and the wild goat shall call its fellows there. The night creature shall rest and find for herself a resting place. Let's do this in the Codex Vaticanus. And demons shall meet with donkeys. Creatures shall meet with howling beasts. I don't think it's demons, no. And then the Greek also says centaurs. The centaur is, I think, a mythological beast that's not real. I don't know what it means. It can mean something else, and I'm not aware of it. And they shall cry one to another. Their donkey centaurs shall rest, for they found rest for themselves. Okay. Now I'm in 15. There the arrow snake, let's see the Greek. There the hedgehog nested. The arrow snake and the hedgehogs. Hedgehogs are cute. We get them around the property. They got these cute little five-toed feet, pink little feet, round little things. They're cute. They really are. There the arrow snake or the hedgehog shall nest and lay eggs. No, I don't think a hedgehog lays eggs. I doubt it. Maybe, I don't know. And the earth safely preserves its young there. Maybe it's a snake, because they do lay eggs. Hatch them and gather them into her shadow. There the kites shall gather each with its mate. And the Greek says the deer. I don't think so. Search from upon the book of Jehovah and read. Not one of these is missing. None lacks her mate. For his mouth has commanded, and his spirit has gathered them. So I used to use the expression, and it's still good. It all comes. Yep. All the prophecies come. It comes. It all comes. He has cast the lot for them, and his hand has divided it to them with the measuring line. They shall possess it forever. From generation to generation, they shall dwell in it. I think he means the creatures, the coyote, the animals, the beasts will live there. So I think it's good that we went through these scriptures again, because they're going to happen. And what you're going to see is the people in the world are going to go into sheer panic when it happens. But these armies are led by Satan bots always. Okay? You think they're going to let the commander in chief or the top general of an army or an air force or a navy be a non-Satan bot? Never. Never. And these nations are built with dirty tactics. Look at Satan and his energy, how it pollutes the air, okay? And how he pollutes the water, and how they poison the water with chemicals. Did you ever see what the furnaces look like? I mean, with coal? There's a lot of countries that use coal. Black smoke coming up all the time. In San Francisco, PG&E, which is called Pacific Gas and Electric, that's their electric and gas company. They would burn stuff during the day, these big chimneys that were probably 60 feet high, and a black smoke would come out. And people in San Francisco were screaming and yelling they didn't want this. So they stopped. But me and a friend of mine had a friend who lived near where this PG&E thing was going on. He got himself like a commercial loft and made it into a living quarters, right? And he noticed that what PG&E did is they stopped burning the stuff during the day and they burned it in the middle of the night when people wouldn't see it because it's dark and not many people notice it, but he did. That's how they are. That's your Satan bots. How many Satan bots? I mean, all the big cigarette companies were owned by Satan bots, not believers. Come on. And they were promoting ads in news magazines, newspapers before television, with a doctor with his medical tunic on, the white tunic. They'd say more doctors smoke Chesterfield than any other cigarette. They had the doctors smoking. And they had they were saying doctors were promoting it to people. Smoke this brand, it's better. They had every crazy thing under the sun. They had a brand of cigarettes that made the filter out of tobacco. I don't remember the name of it. It didn't last that long. And then they had cigarettes that looked the same, like Marlboro and Winston, maybe some others, you know. Then they had expensive cigarettes that were, 10, 15 cents more money, like Benson Hedges. They came in a nice box and they looked more expensive. Then you had a lot of unfiltered cigarettes. I had an uncle who lived to be 99 years old, and he smoked as a guest 50, 60 years, like a couple of packs a day of Chesterfield or Camel, one of those filterless. And he went to 99 years. Something wrong there, isn't it? I don't know. They were selling these Satan bots that owned the factories that made the tobacco, were selling it to other Satan bots. And they'll tell you, you know, how they stick together. No. There's Satan bots that are elevated above the other Satan bots that don't count. Yeah. The short armed men seem to be, seem to be at the top of the food chain in Satan's bizarre lunatic land. Um, so the Satan bots are horrible, you know. They dish it out to their own kind. They don't care. And then look at the oxycodone and all of that stuff. God provided pain medicine for people, the form of opium, which is a gooey thing you get out of flowers, and you could chew it, you could smoke it, you could use it in a solution as an insufflation, if you know what an insufflation is. I won't tell you if you don't know. It's gross. And then, but that's what they used to use a lot, was that, and because it didn't irritate the lungs or anything like that, right? And you could eat it. I'm sure that would work too. So they had instead of the drug companies running around selling opium, which can't be patented because it's a flower. It's like trying to put a patent on daisies or roses, So instead of doing that, what they would do is they would make it into some sort of chemical compound. And I don't really know if they were able to put a patent on that. I don't know, maybe. Maybe there was a patent on the process they used. I really don't know. But they tried to make it into a synthetic so they took the opium and made it into some sort of a chemical, I'm calling it morphine or something, or heroin or something like that. But it all comes from opium, and they make that highly illegal. You can't even get it from a doctor. That's the drug companies. I mean, if they're trying to control you for your own protection, which is nonsense, why the heck can't you get it from a doctor? Because then the doctor could control how much you get, and it would be, in my opinion, I think the world would find it's probably 3 or 4 times less addictive, and it's probably got less bad side effects. But they don't mind people killing themselves with alcohol. I mean, you could go to the store and buy 3 bottles of scotch every day and drink them and see how quick you could kill yourself. There are people that, it says they drink themselves to death. Well, they don't sit there and, just keep pouring till they die. It takes years. It could take 10 years. It could take 20 years, 30 years, depending on the person and how much they drink. But they just keep drinking and drinking. So, they don't care what you do with alcohol, but with the drugs, they care. Follow the money trail, right? That's what it is, the money trail. So these people that did the oxycodone made, I don't know, I think they made like $10 billion or 9, and they made them give a few $1 billion back. But they still left them with many billions of dollars. They just said, spank them. what's the real difference if you got $3 billion in the bank or $1 billion? How are you going to suffer? If you want $100 million house, you got it. You want, to buy a boat for $100 million, you bought it. You want to buy a plane for 70 million, you got it. You can buy all that stuff. They just get limited on, I guess, excess. They can only have so many mansions in so many countries. They can't have 15, 20 houses, And maybe got to cut themselves down to 4 or 5. And does that bring them happiness? Nah. They're stupid. These a lot of these rich men are idiot. They marry women based on their looks, and the women that they marry are stupid because they marry them because they got money. So you got a woman marrying a guy for all the wrong reasons, and you got a guy marrying a woman for all the wrong reasons. What is that? It's nothing. It's not. It doesn't work. So smart yet so stupid. The American public votes for a president, a short-armed transactional fellow that has a wife that was in porno movies and pictures, and the people think, hey, that's great. No problem there. Well, that's why it's called the daughter of Babylon. Now we look at the destruction coming to Elam, which is Iran, and Elam could also include Iraq and parts of Syria. But since the Bible does not have any country called Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, or Oman, they are likely, biblically speaking, part of Iraq and or Syria, and they could go along with it, and it looks like that'll be the case. Saudi Arabia is in the Bible, but with a minor correction. Saudi means the Saud family with a possessive, so it's saying this is Arabia that belongs to the Saud family. Very prideful. But the situation is that Arabia does in fact exist in the Bible. And it does not, God never said it belongs to the Saudi family. They decided to say that themselves. Oh, I got well, it's probably silly. I got a promotional ad from the Bennett campaign, but I was going to read it to you. It's probably a waste of time, Bennett's having trouble. He's dropping behind. I don't know what he's going to have to do. I think he's going to have to hook up with another party, and they're going to rotate. They'll say, I'll be prime minister for 2 years, and you'll be prime minister for 2 years. But these things frequently break apart. So the guy that gets the first 2 years is the one that's probably going to be prime minister, and the other guy may never make it. So anyway, we'll see. So it looks like Iran's going to take out these countries, and they're probably going to have to all leave those countries. I don't know why the sword is going to follow those from Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Oman. I'm not sure how that develops, but we'll have to give it a chance. And also from Iraq and stuff. It says they scatter into all the nations of the world. Now, sequentially speaking, Bible prophecy sequencing, this would have to be before Jeremiah 30:11, which is similar to Jeremiah 46:28. Because if it was after, there wouldn't be any nations, all the nations to scatter into. So I think it definitely would mean before that happens. Because this is a regional thing, so we'll have to see. Is Trump at this point looking like he's trying to get a lifeline to get out of this Iran deal? No. He thinks he's going to get him with the blockade economically. He's wrong. They're not going to be that stupid and sit still for it. They're too vicious. They're way too vicious. No, they're not going to sit still. Okay, so please pray for Mommy Dog. She seems to be slipping back. She's not having a great day today. I gave her a treat to eat, and she didn't want to eat it, and she took it. I don't know if she ever actually ate it. And mopey around, she's not quite herself. I don't know what's going on, but my wife's still working with the vet, so we'll have to see. So please pray for Mommy Dog. She's a good friend. That's what I have for friends. I mean, I got my wife, but then I have friends, the dogs. I don't really have friends here, like you guys probably don't really have friends. I don't. They shun me because they're into churchianity doctrines, even though they don't go to the Messianic congregations. A lot of them, they're into the doctrines of the churches, so they don't like me because of my doctrine. And I have very few friends. I'm also having a very tough time trying to get the welfare system to work here in Israel. You call a lot of these places that say they're going to help you, and you leave your name and number, and they never call you back, and they never answer the phone. I think a lot of these places are phony charities. They raise money from churches, synagogues, whatever, and all they're doing is feathering their own nest. They're not doing anything. There's one that actually does do a lot with food distribution, but they don't work in my area. The social worker told me there's nobody doing the food delivery in the area. So I had somebody work as my advocate. One of the big organizations for the blind wrote one of these charities in Tiberias and tried to make arrangements to help me, because I'm right outside of that area. I'm a few miles away, and no response. So it's really bad, Now we found a new thing in Israel. There's one. You know how you have these services in America? You had them about 30 years ago. You get a service that, let's say you live in Tuscaloosa or something like that. This service will have 20 restaurants or 30 restaurants, and they'll have a website with the menus from all these restaurants, and you could order food from any of these restaurants through them, and their driver will pick the food up and bring it to your house, right? Okay. So we had this place, I had the app, and I tried it, and they said they don't come to my area. Well, now, as we found out, they are in the area. Somebody saw the truck in the area, so they are here. Or it was maybe a motorcycle with the sign or something like that. So I went online and I tried to see if it would work, and it looked like it would. So I told my wife, it looks good, you want to try something? I wasn't very hungry. So she said no. And I said, I don't want to do any. She says, no, order something, get a pizza, something, so you know it works. Okay. So I order a Pizza Hut pizza. The last time I had a Pizza Hut pizza was years ago. Is Pizza Hut pizza really great? I don't know, it's different. You get cheese in the crust, but is it really cheese or cheese food? But anyway, I said, okay, I'll try it, right? So I built the order, and it's, the delivery charge is palatable. It's a maximum of 5%. And then they reduce the price of the pizza by 20 shekels. So it works out. And I'm having trouble getting our address in the order because we live in a city that's based on a mashav. Used to be mashav land, and the houses, they really don't have numbers. We can't figure out what our address is. We can't. And the the GPS things, they can't figure it out either. So we got to make up an address. So we're trying to figure out how to make up an address that approximates where we are. I think I know how to do that now. Because we can't figure out our address. Now, what they do in the legal things here, like for the electricity, is they use something like you could consider the block number, or they have their own number designations. So it's really weird. So we're in a problem with that. So I think I have a rough idea where the house number should be, but we don't know. And a few years ago, nobody here knew what the number of their house was. We didn't have any numbers. And then the government started telling us what our number was, and it's not correct. They gave us the wrong number. They missed by a couple of blocks, 1 or 2 blocks, or 3 blocks. I don't know what to do. So anyway, I couldn't finish showing. This service wants you to show on a map where the entrance is. I couldn't figure it out. So I got my wife to try it. She tried it. She got it figured out. It looked like we got it. So we put it in, and I gave them the credit card, and they said, yep, we got your order. It's going to be 44 to 52 minutes. Okay. 52 minutes later, or an hour later or something, I look at it, and it says, your order was delivered. And I said, oh no, what am I going to do? I got to start a fight with them and a chargeback. Oh, this is going to be such a waste of time. So I went to AI and I said, what do I do? AI said, get the app, because I was doing it online. Get the app. If you have the app, you could open and chat with them and they'll tell you what's going on. So I get the app. I had the app. I punch it in. They say, which order is it? My order showed up in the app, even though I placed it on a website. So I said, great, that's easy. And I get on the chat, and they're so nice. They couldn't have been nicer, let me tell you. So I told them what happened, and they said, wait. And then I asked AI what to do. AI says, wait. They say, oh, I'm going to contact the driver, so I'm waiting. Then they come back. And I see your order was delivered at 6:13 p.m. I said, first it was delivered at 5:30. Now it's delivered here. So I'm saying I never got anything. Wait, we're investigating. Okay, what happened is the driver returned your pizza to Pizza Hut. So I'm sitting there thinking. Okay, so I said, will you give me? He said, what do you want? You want a credit or you want a refund? I said, I want a refund. Says, okay, I'll process a refund for you. Comes back in a few minutes. I process your refund. Okay, please try us again. She wanted to deliver the pizza again, but I didn't want to start up. It was getting late. So what I figure happened is it's a good run from Tiberias to my house, and it was rush hour, and the driver looked at it and said, I'm not going there. So maybe the driver started out coming here, saw the traffic, turned around, put the pizza back into Pizza Hut, got a credit for the company, and said, I'm done. I'm not going there. I'm not going to make any money. That'll ruin me. So I said, that's what I think happened. I don't know. They won't tell you. but she kept trying to get me to get him to deliver it again. So there's another area near here where they have pizza that's good and other food. So I'm going to try that over there. That's a much, much closer, easier trip. So I think they don't want to go from Tiberias. Or maybe if I call them in the middle of the day, they'll come. But the other place has a lot of food. They got, you could get Chinese, you could get, no, not really. You could get Japanese food, you could get burgers, you could get pizza. You get different things, you know. And the pizza there is pretty darn good. I know the pizza store, it's pretty darn good. So I might try that again. It's a good service, you know. The other thing you can do is you can go to different supermarkets. I have to try this. Build an order and then they come and pick your order up and bring it to your house. Now that would be interesting. Because there's not a lot of supermarkets that deliver, so I have to try that and see how that works. That gives us a chance to deal with other supermarkets, you know. And you could also do other things. You could get electronics with them, and it's pretty good, you know. You got to remember, I don't drive anymore, so it could be good for me. And the fees are up. The max they charge you is 5% delivery. That's the most they'll charge you. So if you buy something like a pizza, and they get about 80 shekels for a family size, so you get you pay like $1.50 delivery, and you should give the guy something, give him a tip or something like that. So that's pretty interesting. So the pizza's not exactly cheap, but it delivered, it was 78, 79 shekels, so it's about 80 shekels. So that's 10. It's about $25 for a family-sized pizza. My wife won't eat it, so for me it's probably 3 servings, which isn't that bad, isn't that bad. No, it's not healthy food. So I think if I order again, I'll order. There's a really good McDonald's. I think it's the non-kosher Big Mac in Tiberias by the bus station. If that's what they use, it's good. It's a good one. Or I think there's another one that's not kosher. The Kentucky Fried Chicken, they might have that, but it doesn't work. The kosher one uses the batter, the breading on it is without milk in it because they won't mix dairy and meat, so it stinks. It doesn't come out right. You need to have a non-kosher version of it, which I don't think they have in the area. And hang on, I'll be back in a minute. So pray for me to figure out how to get this food thing to work, please. I think I can solve it, but please pray. I'll be right back. have a pretty good assortment of different restaurants I could get from this thing. They got Glot kosher, Mahedran kosher, which I'd never order. Um, and you could get meat, like kebab, where they cook meat on the grill. That's not so bad. The burger joints, the Japanese. Uh, I have to see if they have falafel and shawarma joints. I didn't see it. Um, I'm gonna try a McDonald's to see what happens. I think what they do, like with the Japanese restaurant. I've been in this Japanese restaurant. They have like a 5-page menu or something like that, but they give you about 15 or 18 choices. They don't give you the whole menu for some reason. Uh, but it's good food. They have Thai, and I think they had Chinese, and they have Japanese. Maybe it's just Thai and Japanese. It's more fusion, you know. It's it's a pretty good place. Uh, the Chinese place that I use uh, won't won't use them, but they deliver themselves, so they don't need it. But what this place does, they're pretty smart people that do this. They go to the restaurant and they say, well, we want to give our people a 20 shekel discount. So the restaurants agree to it because there's going to be more business. So then they knock your price down 20%, and they hit you with a delivery fee. So you come out and they come out. Unless they put the prices, I'd have to check the menu prices they charge and compare it to what the restaurant charges and see if it's they jack it up 20 shekels and then drop it. I'll do that. I'll take a look. I don't think they do that because they get caught. The Israelis would catch them. So there's this. This is hilarious. There's this thing I told you about, Kai Flicks, that has the Israeli television and Israeli movies, and a lot of them are in English, dubbed, and a lot of them are subtitled. And I told you it'd be a good thing to go if you wanted to learn the Israeli culture. They got stuff about the ultra Orthodox. They got their TV shows, and they're doing it for $6 a month. So I go to look at if I could get it, and they say no, they won't sell it to Israelis. Huh. I can't even figure out why. I don't even know why they won't do it. I can't figure it out. It's Israel TV shows, Israel movies in Hebrew, and they won't sell it to the Israelis. Maybe they're afraid the Israelis will hack it. I don't think we have very serious penalties at all, if any, for copyright. In other words, if somebody in Israel goes to some website somewhere and downloads movies that are brand new movies, there's a copyright violation. I don't think Israel does anything. And I think that's one of the reasons why we don't get a lot of stuff here. Another reason is the streaming service doesn't want to pay for a lot of movies and stuff to display them, to stream them into Israel, because the market isn't as big as, say, Germany or Spain or something like that. Maybe the Arabs here get it and they bootleg them. I don't know what it is. I don't know. But I just cracked up laughing with that. You know, they don't. I guess they don't trust the Israelis, unless maybe it's that the people that actually have these movies and TV shows don't want them being anybody getting them all for $6 a month. They charge more in Israel. They don't want to compete with themselves. See, if the charge is $6, then the Kai Flicks place probably is spending much less than $6, maybe $3. So they don't want to, sell the video's cheap or something. I don't know. All I can tell you is I can't wait for the day when the internet is gone and we go back to living without it. It's gone. You know, they're selling robots now in Japan and Tokyo and China. They're getting like 173 US dollars for a robot. And the robot does nothing. I'll tell you what these robots do. They look like Oriental women. They got soft skin that you gotta buy a special liquid from them to maintain it. And the battery heats them up, so if you touch them, they don't feel like a cold table. They feel like room temperature or like a human temperature. They're not sex toys. They have no capability of doing that. They can't cook. They can't clean. They don't turn lights on. They don't open doors. They walk. We don't know how often they bang into people, how often they bang into things and fall over. We don't know any of that. And people are buying them for companions. They have AI and they talk to the people and they have facial expression and they become companions to the people. They could do simple things like, oh, it's 10 o'clock, you gotta call John, okay? Oh, you've got a delivery coming at 11 o'clock, you gotta be ready. Or, you know, something like that, right? They can do reminders, which AI in your iPad or your phone can do. Take your medicine, it's 3 o'clock, you gotta take the red pill. Did you take your medicine yet? You know, can do things like that. But who knows, it can make mistakes. Now I'm seeing robots in China and I think Japan now that are being trained to fight. Okay, I've seen a lot of this, where they're using martial arts spin kicks and they're kicking and striking and stuff like that. So what's going on? That's of minimal value to a government. What do they want that for? They want the thing to shoot. You know, they don't want to go around kicking people. They don't care about that. So that's people. The private sector is going to get, they're going to try to sell protection robots. We are so far from where you get a robot that's going to go into your refrigerator and your freezer, collect the food for a meal, get it ready, wash it, chop it, cut it, prep it with the sink, with silverware and knives and a cutting board, right? And then get your pots and pans ready and heat them up and turn the stove on and put the oil or the butter in there and then cook. Take the stuff out and put it in a plate and then serve it to you. I'm here in 15 years, which means you're never going to see it. And then that same robot would be able to get a vacuum out and vacuum the house, get a mop and mop the house, pick dirt up, dust the furniture off. We're not seeing any of that. We've got a little round disc that cleans the floors, maps the house, and goes around and talks. It does a pretty good job. It vacuums and washes the floor. It's not bad at all. It does a pretty good job. And my wife got some sort of new super vacuum cleaner she's in love with. That you just very lightly push it around and it cleans the floor. The lady who cleans the house loves it too. I don't know what it makes a racket, but the two of them think it cleans like amazing, so it must be good. So they're pretty far away. The robots, people are paying $173,000 to have some stupid AI stuck in a rubber body that talks to you with facial expressions and eye movements. You know, it's ridiculous. And because some of these things are heating up, you know, they got to run body heat in them and stuff. You know, they're 4.5, 5 feet tall, and you're running body heat through them for, you know, every few hours, you know, an hour or two or so, the thing needs a battery charge. Imagine them selling these self-defense robots, and the robot, you know, makes an error. You know, AI makes mistakes. So that, you know, you got this self-defense robot in the house, and it confuses you with somebody else and starts kicking you. What do you do? They're using robots on assembly lines now where people used to work, and um, they're able to work about 82% as efficiently as a person. But they don't have benefits, they don't take a lunch break, you know, stuff like that. They're really cheap. They're cheaper than slaves. So people are using them for that. So a lot of people are going to be displaced out of work if prophetic time allowed, based on AI. You know, if prophetic time allowed, where you could combine an AI robot with driving a car or driving a flying car or driving a motorcycle, it would be amazing what you could do, because you could send your robot out on deliveries and it would be able to do your credit card charge for you. But let's say the thing made a mistake and gave it a few extra zeros, it could wipe you out. It could, you know, take a $10 charge and you lost $100,000, you know, or something, you know. You know, but I can't believe how many people are buying these things to get a companion. But where? In what country are they buying them? Japan and China. They're not buying them in the other countries, as far as I know. Who the heck would want an AI that looks like a woman that you talk to and you touch? And, you know, it's not sexual. It's not a sex thing. They have those. Those are called sex dolls, I think. And they took them and they hooked them up to AI, but they're very immaturely processed. That's for sick people. I mean, so's this. This is for sick people too. To have a companion that looks like a person that's AI. So I don't even know if it's full AI. I think it's just partial AI. If it's full AI, that means it's on the internet, so it's connecting to your modem and then it's answering questions. But you know, I don't even think they're putting full AI in these things. I don't know. The world's going downhill. The people in Japan are, their culture is crashing really badly. And China's not doing so great either. There's a lot of women that are staying single, people aren't marrying. Japan too. They're not. The Koreans, I don't think, are affected by this, but nor the Taiwanese. I think it's just the Japanese and the Chinese. They're heavily affected, and they don't. Uh, All right, I'm going to pray for us. And thank you for praying for the mommy dog. She's a valuable member of the household, and I appreciate it. We really don't want to see her sick. Okay, and please keep the prayers going for her. And for my wife, too. And she's actually improving, so I appreciate that. All right, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife, all the true believers in their households. I pray that we would have your peace, safety, protection, joy, and your shalom peace, and strength, stamina, and endurance, and your healing and recuperative power flowing through us, and our animals and pets, and ourselves would be safe, secure, happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And I pray that those of us that are believers that need jobs or a place to live or clients and customers, find them, and good ones. And I pray that we would all have adequate finances and then some extra. Okay? And I pray we understand the Bible better, and we understand how you, my Heavenly Father, are fulfilling prophecy, and how the nations are deceiving us, and how they're hiding from God, and how the religious leaders are concealing what's really going to happen from the people. And I submit this prayer to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and you can agree with that if you're a believer, even though it's a video. And now I'll do spiritual warfare, and it'll change a little bit, you'll see. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, I loose from me and my wife, all the true believers, their households, and families. I loose any unclean spirit in any of these people, like in the families, is loosed out of these people and has to come out immediately and never return unto them again, ever. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And if there's any evil spiritual warfare going out from any unclean spirits or people serving unclean spirits, targeting me and my wife or any of the true believers in their households and families, that the evil witchcraft is null and void, of no value, no effect forever, shall never return in any like fashion or the same way. I submit this to you for forever. It shall never come back, any of this evil spiritual warfare. And I submit this to you, my Heavenly Father, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. And I hope you got something out of this, and I send my Shabbat Shalom to all you guys who love Yeshua. How the time flies. Shabbats just stack up, huh? Okay, thanks, guys. Remember, we're driven by offerings. Okay.